Okay, well, we are back at our base now. Now, this is obviously not my normal studio. It's not necessarily got the most ideal light for processing and printing images, but we're going to work with what we've got, and I'm not going to do an awful lot of editing to the picture. So I'm not too worried because I know that it looks pretty good from how I shot it this morning. So we've got a landscape. You may remember that we were down at Friars Crag. We got a little bit of light, as you can see, that kicked up over the top of cat bells, just gave us a little bit, but unfortunately the downside was we had quite a lot of geese and they were moving around. I couldn't really get rid of them, and a long exposure wasn't going to work because they just kind of ended up as semi-ghosts, which was not the nicest. So we've had to go with having the geese in there, but for the purposes of what I'm trying to demonstrate, I think it kind of works. We've got a nice foreground interest with this log here, or the tree stump. And then we've got a lovely space for the midground where the geese are sitting. And then we've got that background of cat bells and the fells with all of those beautiful autumn colours on there. But with all that said, our plan is we're going to take the picture from here, shot this morning, and output it on here, right before your very eyes. So this is the Canon Pro 300, the Pixma Pro 300. It's the brand new 13-inch or A3 Plus printer from Canon, replacing the Pixma Pro 10. It is a 10-ink pigment ink system using the Lucia 3 inks. They're the new formulation of the Lucia inks. And one of the interesting things about this is that it allows us to print borderless, not just on glossy media, but also on matte and fine art media as well. So if you're into your matte and fine art, particularly for, say, black and whites, that may well be a real benefit for you, something that's really interesting and exciting. Now, printing is normally super complex, or at least people seem to think that it's super complex, but the reality is it's quite simple. I've turned on that shadow highlight warning so I can see if any of the shadows are blocked up. In this case, they're not. Equally, none of the highlights are blown. I can look at the histogram. I can see that I've got a really good range up here between shadows and highlights. So I'm pretty comfortable, pretty confident with how this is going to look. In the raw adjustment software, there's a variety of things we can do. So if I wanted to change the brightness, which I haven't done, I could. I can open the shadows, close the shadows, lift or pull down the highlights. I can change the saturation, the contrast, all of that. But this is not a DPP workshop. The goal is for you to see how easy it is to get printing done. Now with the Pixma Pro 300, we need to use a print plugin called Professional Print Layout. It's a free download available from the Canon website with the printer, and it allows you to lay out your pictures very simply and also have full control over how they look. But you can also soft proof as well, and you can carry out further color adjustments if you wanted to. So the solution is quite simple. We go File, we choose Plugin Printing, and we're going to choose Print with Professional Print and Layout. And that is going to open up a new window for us. And when it loads, it's basically sending effectively the raw file. Note that we are printing directly from RAW here. We're not going anywhere near Photoshop or any other image editor in that sense. We're printing a raw file, and that means we're making the maximum use of all of the data that the raw file can provide. So the pictures come in, you get like a layout box. You can choose various different layouts. You can have multiple images on one piece of paper if you wanted to, if you want to create, say, a contact sheet. We're just going to go with one, and we're going to make it bordered because I think it looks quite nice. It also makes the printing marginally quicker. We need to choose our paper type. So I'm going to be using the Photo Paper Pro Luster, which is like a semi-matte. I think it will work very nicely for this kind of color image. If I was doing black and white, I'd probably be tempted more to go towards one of the matte papers. But we're going to choose Photo Papers and then Photo Paper Pro Luster. We choose our paper size, which is A3. The printer, as I said before, can go up to an A3 Plus, but I'm running A3 printer today, A3 paper today. So we choose our A3. We need to choose where the paper is, so it's in the top feed. Print quality, we've got standard and highest. I'm going to choose standard. We can choose clear coating. Now, clear coating, if your printer has an ink called a chroma optimizer, it allows it to print effectively a varnish across the top of the print. Now, the reason for that, if you're doing a glossy print, when you lay ink onto a paper, you get different amounts of ink for different tones. And so you get these microscopic peaks and troughs. When you clear coat, you fill in all of those peaks and troughs so you get a uniform level of ink across the surface. And that means when you look at the paper at an oblique angle, it's uniformly glossy. You don't get some areas that are more glossy and some areas that are less glossy. So I'm going to leave that on auto. I'm not going to turn on the DP RAW or contrast reproduction for this one because I didn't have DP RAW turned on in the camera. And further down we get to our color management. Now I'm going to choose use ICC profile because by selecting the paper it's going to pick up the profile that's already built into the printer and the software. We're going to choose printer profile. We can select the profile here, but if I choose auto, then it goes with the profile based on the paper that is loaded. And our rendering attempt can be perceptual or relative colorimetric, and most of the time you're going to want perceptual. And that's pretty much it. We can soft proof, so if I was on a color calibrated monitor and I click the soft proof option here, I'd get a really good idea as to exactly what that print is going to look like. On this monitor, it's a glossy screen, all of the ambient light that's going on in here. I can't get an absolutely honest view, so soft proofing is not particularly going to help me. But it's looking okay. I'm pretty sure the image is looking good. And I'm going to hit print, followed by OK, and it will now slowly load the image into the print queue. And at some point, wake up the printer and our print will appear. So our print has appeared, and well, within the realms of what's possible from a camera filming a print and a screen, I think we could probably agree that they look pretty much the same. The detail through here is actually phenomenal. The 45 megapixels of the R5, it's just got so much detail, particularly through this front area here, through the lichen covered tree. Just incredible, and even all the way through to the background to cat bells. The detail really is unreal. And in terms of colours, well, I think it's come out pretty much as I remember it looking. It looks pretty natural. There's no real colour cast to it, and as far as setting up the printer goes, it was just a matter of clicking a few buttons, and none of it was particularly complex. You just remember that ideally you want to calibrate your screen, you need to select the right type of paper. Ideally, you should use Canon papers, but it doesn't really matter. You can get the profiles for most manufacturers' papers. You should, however, definitely always use Canon inks because they are more finely filtered, which means they don't clog your print heads. And in terms of processing, as you saw, I was using the Canon Dpp software. This is the free software that Canon supply. You can download this from their website. You may need to put in the serial number of your camera to get it, but you can find the serial number on the bottom of your camera, or indeed in the file info in any of the pictures you've taken with the camera. And that gives you a very nice, easy to use, very high quality raw processing option. And then with that professional print and layout, I was able to print that raw file directly to get this kind of result. Simple, clean, easy. No need to worry too much about colour management because it's all done for you with the settings that you're asked to make by the software.